when the speakers turned on. It's good to meet all of you. My name is Michael. I think a lot of us have met already, but just in case. My name is here on my apron if you missed it. Also right up here next to the stage. I'm not the only artist here today. Of course, there's all of you, but we're also joined by Sasha tonight. Sasha is right there by the bar. Everybody say, "Hey, Sasha." Hey, Sasha. Sasha is going to be our artist assistant tonight. That means she's your go-to source for paint refills, drink refills, emotional support, life advice. Maybe you need to brush up on your Ukrainian language homework. She's here for you. Just let her know. Sasha is also an artist and a teacher here at Muse. So that means if you need actual professional artist hands to help you paint your painting, she's here for you. She's very talented. You'll be in good shape. Before we get into our instructions and start painting, I want to give you a quick tour of the studio so you know where everything is. First, there's the sink in the corner there. If you need to wash your hands or change your paint water while you're working, that's where you can do it. Aprons live on the wall by the sink. Also, if you don't have an apron yet, you'll want one of those to help keep you clean. Bathrooms are in the hallway. There are 2 restrooms back there. Anybody can use either one, just knock before you go in. There are also coat hooks in the hallway. If you have a coat or a jacket, or maybe you spend $500 on your purse and you don't want to get any paint on it, that's a good place for it. There's also hooks on your table legs if you have anything you'd like to hang up to keep close to you, but not necessarily on the floor of the table. The bar is open for food and drink orders all session long. You can also order from your table. Sasha can take orders from you that way. Really easy if you leave the tablet at the bar. Or if you'd rather, you can use your phone to scan that fancy QR code at the top of your email. You can look at the menu or put orders through that way as well. That's it. That's the tour. Are you guys feeling ready to start? Yeah, a little bit. Anybody feeling kind of nervous to start? Maybe. Can I maybe just even a glass of wine before we get started? Let's check out our tools and make sure we have everything we need. First, look for a roll of paper towels. Grab yourself 2 slices of paper towel each. 2 pieces, 2 squares, 2 sheets. We're going to do just a little bit of origami here to get into class. Well, Michael, I said a first painting class, not an origami class. Don't worry, it's easy. I've got my 2 sheets still stuck together. If yours are torn apart, just stack them on top of each other. If yours are stuck together like mine, fold them in half, hamburger style first. And then everybody fold your paper towel in half, hot dog style. Hamburger, hot dog, right like that. You maybe have not heard that since you were in school, or maybe you've never heard it before in your life. Hamburger, hot dog, just our teacher. And that's it, that's all the origami. That's the most complicated part of the painting. If you manage to do this, you can do the rest of it, I promise. But once we have our incredibly fancy paper towel made up, I'm going to make myself a cleaning station with my paper towel and my water can. I'm going to tuck my paper towel underneath my water, right like that. So I have a handy place to clean and dry my brushes while I'm working. Don't get your water can confused with your wine glass. The paint is non-toxic, but I imagine it doesn't taste very good. It makes it in plastic trouble. Speaking of brushes, you should have 5 paint brushes in front of you. Count those brushes up for me real quick. Make sure you got all 5. First brush to look for is your blue handle paintbrush. That's your biggest brush today. Next paintbrush is your purple brush. That one's got a curvy top for making curvy shapes. Next is your orange brush. Orange brush is the same shape as a blue brush, only smaller. So those are all the same things, only little. I'll be using my orange brush today when we get to our pine trees later in the class. Next is your green brush. That's the brush that you want to use for drawing. This is my favorite brush, so I'll do all of my drawing tonight with my green brush because I like it best. And then the last brush is your yellow brush. This is your detail brush. Anytime I'm using my green brush, you're having a hard time getting real little tiny lines, the yellow brush is a good option for you. Now that's all 5 brushes. Is anybody missing a paintbrush? Good. Drop your brushes down in your water can, stir them around. Make sure they're nice and loose, nice and awake. You don't have any crusty paintbrushes. Pull those brushes out of your water, touch them to your paper towel, and lay them on your table. Your brushes are set and ready to go. Next, I want to double check our colors. There are 6 colors on our palette today. I am pretty good at counting 6, but it's been a few hours since I finished my coffee, and I am an artist and not a mathematician, so there's a solid chance I miscast it. So I'm going to name a color. If you have it, say yes. And if you don't have it, say Sasha! Sasha will grab your phone for you. So do you guys have white?
Yes.
Yeah, we all have white? Okay, good. How about black?
Yes.
Gold?
Yes.
I forget what I call that, like honey mustard yellow. Okay, how about green?
Yes.
Yeah. Blue? Red?
No. Oh. Sasha!
Okay, good. Good. A couple of you are on top of it. How about magenta? You got magenta on there. That's that pinky purple color. If you're not familiar with the name magenta, that's what that one looks like. So those 6 colors, white, black, gold, green, blue, and magenta. That's what we should have. Those are the colors that we need to make our painting look just like this one up here on the wall. I'm going to do my best to copy this one today. It's my job to copy this painting. I feel pretty confident because I've painted it before. It's your job to have a good time and make a painting that you like. So if there's something about this painting that you are not into, feel free to mix it up. Maybe instead of this like very pastel, soft painted purple sky, you want to do sunset colors. You're going to have red and orange. Maybe it's nighttime. You want some stars and some galaxies and luminous in there. Maybe you need some blue, sky blue and some fluffy white clouds. Maybe you don't want pine trees, you want palm trees. Maybe you want to ignore my instructions and paint an entirely different painting. You're allowed to do that because it's yours. Just let me know if there's a color that you need that you don't have. I'll be happy to grab some extra paint colors for you or help you mix something. But other than that, we should have everything we need to start. Are we feeling ready? More ready than we were 5 minutes ago, I hope. Yeah, ready to go? Okay, well, ready or not, we're going to start. Grab yourself one of those little circle plates from the middle of your table and fold it in half like a taco. And then fold that paper taco in half again, make yourself like a nacho chip, pizza slice, piece of game, some tropical chip food. Open that back up. That is your mixing plate. We're going to use this plate to mix up 4 different colors. We're going to start with our sky colors. So we want some pink and we want some purple. That's what we're going to make here in these 2 little sections. And then later we'll make a green, probably, and a sandy brown. But for now we're just going to make our pink and purple so we have what we need for our sky. Grab your blue handle paintbrush. Make sure it is nice and dry. That way you don't mix a bunch of water in your color while you're working. Blue handle brush. I am going to start by mixing up my pale pink color so that we have what we need to draw a bright line and start working our sky. So using this big blue brush, I will start this color with 1 big scoop of our magenta paint. Use the bristles of your blue brush like a shovel. Get a big blob of that pinky purple color out of the end of your brush and scrape it into one of your 4 sections on your circle plate there. I'm actually scraping my brush on the edge of my plate. I want to make sure I have 1 whole big scoop of paint, and I want to keep my brush nice and sharp and black while I'm using it. So that's 1 big scoop of magenta, and then I want a little baby scoop of white. I'm not going to clean my brush between colors, just going to go for it. Scrape it off so it's nice and flat, get a little baby scoop of white. If you imagine that big scoop is a Papa Bear size scoop, somewhere in the middle there's like a Mama Bear size scoop. We want a little baby bear size scoop of white. White goes right on top of that magenta color. Scrape off your brush and then use the bristles of your brush to stir this color together. It should be a paler pink color. This is going to be the color that goes in the bottom of our sky. You can see it peeking through the mountains there in our background. You can adjust this color however you want. I'm going to show you what mine looks like here. This is a solid color. You can adjust this color however you want. A tiny touch of your blue will turn this purple. If you'd rather have purple down there at the bottom of your sky, we are going to make some purple here in a second too. But if you want it to all be purple, you can do that. A little bit of your golden honey mustard sort of color can make this lean a little bit more towards orange. If you want it to be a little warmer or a little more neutral, rather than a bright pink, you can add some of that color to it too. More white is going to make it lighter and paper, more magenta is going to make it darker and brighter. This is what my color looks like, but it's not a test to make sure that you match my color. What's important is that you like the one you're painting with. So here's what mine looks like once you have yours mixed up, you're feeling good about it. Scrape your brush off on the edge of your plate. Scrape it off, but we're not going to clean our brush yet because we're going to make our purple color right away, that lavender color next. And it's going to have the same colors in it, so we don't need to clean our brush. So scrape it off so it's nice and sharp, nice and flat. And then in a new section of this same circle plate, let's start our purple color with another scoop of our magenta. So still using that same big blue brush, scrape it off between your colors, get a new big scoop of magenta in a new section of that same plate. One big scoop of magenta. Then I want a baby scoop of white. Scrape off my brush, baby scoop of white. And then I also want a baby scoop of blue. So one big scoop of magenta, baby scoop of white. And then also a baby scoop of blue. Baby scoop of blue. One magenta, baby scoop of white, baby scoop of blue. Scrape off your brush, and then use your bristles to stir those colors together. This should be a sort of lavender, periwinkle sort of color. I'll show you what mine looks like here as soon as I've got it all mixed up. I'm thinking I'm probably going to want a little bit more white, maybe a little more magenta in mine. This is a nice color. It's a little bluer than I want mine to be. Here's what mine looks like. I want just a little bit more magenta in my color, so it's a little bit pinker and a little bit more white, so it's just a smidge paler. But I'm on the right track. Adjust this color however you want, just like my last color, just like that pink. This isn't a test to make sure that you're matching my color. Make sure you like it. That's what's most important. So I'm going to add a little tiny bit more pink, a little bit more white to my color. Once you're happy with the way this purple looks, scrape your brush off on the edge of your plate, rescue all your hard work. And then we're going to be cleaning our paintbrush. I'll show you what mine looks like here as soon as I have it mixed up. I'm happier with it already. You're going to look at it and be like, Michael, that didn't change at all. I promise it changed colors. I watched it change colors. I added a little bit more white to mine and a little bit more of my magenta. So it's just a little less blue. I'm happy with this color now, so I'm going to leave it right like this. Scrape off my brush, rescue my hard work, and then we're going to go right into our water can to clean this brush off. When you clean your brushes, because this is the first brush, I'll give you some instructions. When you clean your brushes, you want to make little gentle circles and swirls down at the bottom of that paint can. Making circles like this will help work the water up inside your paintbrush and help you the inside of your paintbrush clean. After you make some circles, wipe your brush back and forth down there on the bottom. That'll help get the outside of your paintbrush clean. So little circles for the inside, back and forth for the outside. After you clean your brush in your water can, wipe it off on your paper towel to make sure you've gotten all of the paint out of your brush. If there's still paint in your brush after you clean it once, there is in mine. I'm a messy painter. I always have paint on my brush. If there's still paint in your brush after you clean it once and wiped it off, go back to your water can, clean it again. You want to make sure to get all that paint out so you don't accidentally mix the color later. You also don't want the paint to dry up inside your brush and make it crunchy and weird to paint with. Nobody wants to paint with a crunchy brush. Once that big blue brush is clean and dry again, we're going to go back to our pink to start our painting. So brush is clean and dry. I'm going to use my big blue brush and this pink color that I mixed up on my little mixing plate here to draw my horizon to start. The horizon line is the line that separates the sky from the ground in our painting. It's gonna be hidden behind our mountains, most of it, but it's gonna be about a third of the way up from the bottom of our canvas. It's gonna be this line right here. I am going to eyeball the middle of my painting. I'm not gonna get out a ruler to make sure it really hits the center exactly, so that's best. I'm gonna eyeball the middle of my painting, hold my blue brush the skinny direction, side to side, and using that pink from my mixing plate, I am going to put a skinny straight line that goes all the way across my painting, about an inch or so below the middle of my canvas. So I'm just going to guess where the middle is, close enough. A little bit below the middle, I'm going to put a pink line that goes all the way across. That's your horizon line. That's the line that separates the sky from the ground. We don't need to make it perfect because it's going to be hidden behind our mountains later, but we do want to know where to stop painting sky and start painting ground. Once we have got our pink line painted in like this, I want to paint about 2 brush strokes of our pink color above this line. So starting right at the bottom of our sky, right where that line is, I'm going to do about 2 brush strokes. Our goal with our sky here is to have about the bottom third of our sky pink, the middle third white, and the top third lavender. But again, we're not getting out a ruler to measure. If you want like a general guide, your blue brush is an inch wide, so you can sort of use that to measure about how far you're going. I'm going to do about 2, maybe 3 brush strokes. We want it to be roughly a third of our sky, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Does not have to be perfect. One other thing that I want to make sure we're doing while we're working on our sky here, starting with our pink, is anywhere this pink color has touched the edge of your canvas, you also want to paint the sides of your painting that color too. Paint the sides of your painting like this, making it look like all the paint wraps all the way around with inside stretchy lines. Is what's going to make your painting look really professional and fancy and finished when you hang it up on your wall. And you're all going to hang this on your wall, right? You're all going to hang this on your wall, right? Yeah, right inside your front door. So while your friends see it, they're going to be like, dang, where'd you get that awesome painting with the masterpiece with the sunrise? And you can say, actually, I painted that really incredible masterpiece, and I'd love to paint one for you also. That'll be $300. Thank you very much. You want to make sure it looks really good, and you do that by wrapping your colors around. Makes it look very professional. After you have got your pink painted around your sides, go ahead and freshen that front up just one more time. Freshen up the pink stripe here. And then give your brush a quick clean. We want to switch it to our white paint while this pink is still wet. That way we can blend our colors together. We want to make sure the paint is still wet so we can blend it. So as soon as you've got your pink stripe painted, wrap your colors around the edges. Give that blue brush a quick clean in your water can. Once he's clean and dry again, switch to white paint, just straight white from your palette. Same with blue brush, he's clean and dry. And I am going to start a couple brush strokes above my pink. So we're gonna paint about an inch or 2 above where we stopped with our pink. This is just white paint, doing long back and forth brush strokes. I'm going to work my way down towards the top of the pink stripe that I just painted. I'm going to be doing walk back and forth brush strokes in my sky here today to keep the surface of my painting real smooth and soft. But if you're feeling a little more Van Gogh, you're feeling a little more Monet, you're here tonight at Mixed Paint Bar to live out your Van Gogh fantasy starting at 5. So you can do lots of little short brush strokes, all sorts of directions. I'm going to match the one up on the wall, so I'm doing long brush strokes all the way across. After I filled in that white stripe, it's about 2-3 inches, just like the pink one. I'm going to start to overlap the top of the pink stripe to mix and blend these 2 colors together. The more you paint over these 2 colors where they're still wet, paint over it, the softer it's going to be. If you want big, bold, streaky, vivid colors, or my colors a lot of times, so it's very soft. Don't clean up my brush again to move into the lavender up the top of my sky. So I'm going to give my brush a quick clean so I can move into my lavender. I don't want you guys to feel rushed through this stuff. I know I'm moving through these colors quick, but it's not to rush you or hurry you. The trick to getting our colors to mix and blend together is making sure they stay wet while we're working with them. And so if we give them too much time to dry, we're not going to mix and blend. We're not going to get those pretty transitions between our colors. But I want you to know what to do as soon as you are finished. As soon as you've got your white and pink blend, look at something like this, something that you're happy with. Clean and dry that blue brush again, switch over to your lavender. I'm going to start at the very, very top edge of my painting with my lavender paint. I want to work down towards that white section in the middle, just like I did with the white blending it into the pink. I'm going to blend the lavender into the white. Same sort of process, same ideas. Make sure you're getting your left and right side in that very top edge of your painting. Long back and forth brush strokes to make very smooth transitions. If you want those big, vivid textures, lots of little short brush strokes in all sorts of directions. So I've got something like this right now. Pink to white to purple. Feeling pretty good about it. Don't forget your edges. Don't forget to overlap. And then for our last step for our sky, while this purple is still wet at the top of my canvas, I'm going to add some white into the very top to add some streaks of white at the very, very top. I want it to kind of look like streaky, windy clouds. So once you have your purple painted at the top, purple started at the top, work your way down, overlap some of your white. You have a real smooth blend from pink to white to purple. I'm going to use the same brush, not even going to clean it off while it is still dirty and while my purple is still wet at the top of my painting. I'm going to use a little bit of white paint and I'm going to blend some white into this lavender to make some streaks of white. So it kind of looks like very distant, streaky, windy sort of clouds.
Did you use the edge of your brush or the
And I'm holding it in the thick direction. Thick direction. If you hold your brush in the skinny direction while you're doing this, you can make sharper, harder lines. If you want real vivid streaks of color, you can hold your brush in the skinny direction. So it'll look something more like this. It gives it lots more texture, lots more streaks. I'm holding my brush in the thick direction for all of this blending because it's going to make softer and smoother shapes. I'm going to turn up the music while we're working on our sky. We finally have a second to ourselves to work, so you don't have to listen to me talk about these colors anymore. If you see me on my phone while I'm here on stage, I promise it's not because I'm on Snapchat or TikTok or anything. I am an artist and a DJ today. That means I can turn up songs that we like or skip songs that we don't like. Or if you have a favorite song you want to hear, just let me know. I can always add it to the playlist. But for now, I am going to turn up the music while we're working on our sky. Feel free to work back through your other colors. If you need to go back to white or pink, feel free. Double check your edges, and once you're happy with your sky, clean and dry your brush, and we'll move down to the bottom section of our painting. Once you are happy with the way your sky looks, you've got pink to white to purple, you've got some white streaks up in the purple section, looking kind of misty, all different clouds. Blue brush, nice and clean and dry. All I'm going to do next is fill in all of this bottom section here. I'm going to fill it all in with just white. And now you may be thinking to yourself, or out loud to your neighbor next to you, Michael, that's already white. Why are you making me paint this white if it's already white? If you feel what your canvas feels like right now, it's real rough and dry. You don't want any of your painting to be rough and dry like that. You want it to all be smooth smooth and shiny and consistent, even where it's going to stay white. So even where it's going to be white, you want it to have white paint on it. And we need some fresh, wet white paint to blend our blue and pink in for these like shadows and highlights on those little streets. So blue brush, clean and dry. I'm going to just use white paint and fill in all of this bottom section, all of this bottom third of my painting with white. It's okay if you, if like this paint at the bottom of your sky is still kind of wet, mine is dry. If yours is kind of wet and you pick it up and like blend it in and it gets kind of streaky down here, it's okay. Because we're going to do that on purpose. You also don't have to make this a real clean, perfect, straight line, because remember, we're going to be putting our mountains on top of our sky anyways. You're not going to be able to see the very bottom of your sky, so it doesn't have to look perfectly smooth and straight or level. Because we are at the bottom of our painting now, it's time for a pro tip. If you are having a hard time getting to the very bottom edge of your painting, especially if you hear this sound, means you're hitting it easily, you're running out of room. Here's your pro tip. All you gotta do is turn your canvas sideways, or flip your painting all the way upside down. That will help you reach those harder to get edges, especially the very bottom side, the very edge, down the very bottom of your canvas. If you run out of room to paint those edges, feel free to rotate your canvas around. Wet paint is not going to hurt the easel is not going to hurt the edges of your canvas. Flip around to help get those sides. I am going to get the music turned up while I am finishing getting the water in my painting filled in with white. Once you're done filling that rectangle in with white, we don't need to clean our brush yet because we're going to be blending some colors in on top. Into my magenta paint from my palette. I'm going to switch to holding my brush the skinny direction side to side to make sharper lines and streaks. And I want to add some pink into the bottom, probably about the bottom third of my water. I am going to go over these colors fewer times than I did in my sky to prevent them from mixing together so I can have some sharper streaks, some more vivid colors. If you hold your brush the thick direction instead, while you are blending these colors together, you can make softer and smoother areas. Feel free if you'd rather have your water smooth, soft. I like to have these sharper streaks in my water because it makes it look more like waves and reflections and highlights and shadows. Little short brush strokes, just side to side. If you do other directions, it's going to look like there's maybe a stronger current, maybe there's some rapids, as rivers say, maybe there's some big waves. Up to you. I'm going to do just real short, flat, horizontal brush strokes to keep the water looking very still and calm. After we've added some magenta into the bottom, about the bottom third, something like this, I'm going to wipe off my brush because it's starting to get real thick and blobby and full of paint, but I don't need to clean off my brush yet because I'm okay with these colors mixing and blending together. I'm going to wipe it off so it's not super thick. And then I'm going to switch into blue, just a straight up blue from my palette. I'm going to do the same thing with blue in the top 2/3 of my water. Skinny direction again, skinny direction to make these skinnier streaks. Little brush strokes using just the end of my bristles to sweep the paint together. I am going to bring my colors all the way to the left side of my canvas, even though there's going to be a hill down here in the corner. I'm going to paint a hill down in the corner, but I'm going to bring my colors in waves all the way across. That way, any of the water that shows, I'm going to paint my shoreline in, and I want to make sure that any of the water that shows in my painting has got paint on it. So I'm going to bring it all the way over to the left side, all the way to the right side. The more you go over these colors, just like all of our colors today, the more you paint over them while they're wet, the more they're going to mix and blend together. They'll get softer and softer. If you want it more vivid, more streaky, just go over your colors a couple times. After you've got your colors added in, double check your edges, left, right side, bottom edge. Make sure your colors are all still wrapping around. Feel feel free to clean off your brush and go back to white if you want to add some more white in. Maybe you need more pink now you added your blue. You're like, oh man, I can't see my pink anymore. You can clean off your brush and go back to pink. Like I said, double check your edges when you're finished with the water down here at the bottom. Go ahead and clean and dry your brush, and I'll talk to you about our next steps. Alright, I've got some streaks of color in my water. I've got some areas where I have more blue, some areas where I have more white, some areas where I have more pink. It's looking real streaky. Like I said about these streaks, the more you paint over, the softer and smoother it's going to get. Just like when I did my sky up there at the top, I went over my colors lots of times, pulled my brush in the thick direction, that made very soft, smooth blends. Down here in my water, I held my brush in the skinny direction the whole time so that it would be real streaky and sharp. And I only went over my colors a few times to keep them separate. Of course, while they're wet, the more you paint over them, the more they're going to mix together. And I wanted to keep mine from mixing, so a little bit more like waves. But most important is that you like what your painting looks like, not that it matches mine. Especially with paintings that have very abstract styles and colors like this. I've never seen the sky look pink and lavender like this before. I've never seen the water I've seen pink and white water. It almost even looks like ice or snow. There's not a right or wrong way to do this. What's most important is that you're happy with it. And once you are happy with it, you can go ahead and clean your brushes. Of course, double check your edges, make sure it's all painted around. At this point, all of our canvas should be covered with paint. We shouldn't have any empty, naked white areas on our canvas. It should all be painted. Even the places that are going to stay white, they've been painted with white paint. And that's going to mean a couple things. First, that means we've been working really hard, and we deserve to take a break. Second, it means our painting is too wet for us to paint anything else on, so even if you're not ready for a break, then your painting needs a break. So we're going to take probably about 10, 12 minutes. We'll listen to 3 or 4 songs together while our painting takes some time to dry. I am not going to need to speed up my drying process on mine. There should be plenty of time for it to dry on its own. But if you need to speed yours up at all, maybe you're going to keep working on break. Maybe you want to go back to your sky and touch some stuff up. Maybe I said Van Gogh earlier and you said that, and you used lots and lots of paint, just real thick and textured. It's just going to take a little longer to dry. So if you need to speed it up, you can take your painting over to one of our hair dryers to dry it off a little faster. There's a hair dryer on either side of the stage, so there's one here next to me, one here on the other side. There's a hair dryer in the hallway by the bathrooms, and there are 2 hair dryers in our open private studio, also on either side of the stage in the other room. So if you need to speed up your painting, grab your painting, head over to a hair dryer and dry it off. Like I said, I'm not going to speed mine up, there should be plenty of time on its own. Other stuff that you can do while you're on break, feel free to change out your paint water in the sink in the corner if you like clean paint water, that's where you push it out. I use the same dirty paint water all class long, I'm not worried about clean water. But if you would like clean water, that's where you can change it. If you worked up an appetite, maybe it's time for some popcorn or some pretzel bites to get you through. If you've worked up some anxiety already, maybe it's time for another glass of wine, or something like that help you out. Also let me know if you want help with your painting, or if you just want me to come around and say, hey, that looks great. I'll be happy to do it for you. Step outside if you need some fresh air, get up, stretch your legs, spy on your neighbors a little bit, maybe sign something just to go there. I always think it's helpful to look at what other artists are making in their paintings. Even maybe snacks and inspiration here and there, feel free. All the artists who work here have personal art in the hallway next to the bars. You can check out what we've been making in our own time. Feel free. But if you do not need anything from me on this break, of course, if you do, let me know I'm here. But if you don't need anything from me on this break, I will see you in about 10, 12 minutes, 3 or 4 songs with dry paintings. Enjoy your break. And that's the end of my commercial, the end of our break. Brushes are clean, paintings are dry. Let's get right back into it. I want to start by mixing up my mountain purple color. It is a little darker, it's a little grayer than the lavender we used in our sky, so I'm going to mix up a new color for that. Grab your purple candle paintbrush this time. Purple candle paintbrush this time. We don't need quite as much of this color, so we're probably not going to need our blue brush anymore for the rest of the class. So switch over to your purple brush. I want to start this darker lavender color. I want to start this color with one big scoop of my magenta paint using my purple brush. Does anybody need more magenta paint to make this? Using my purple brush, I'm going to get one big scoop of magenta. We're all good? Sweet. Remember, if you run out of color, if you need anything, Sasha. That's how you get more. So we want one big scoop of magenta, new section on that mixing plate. One big scoop of magenta. Then I'm going to do a baby scoop of white. One big scoop of magenta, baby scoop of white. Baby scoop of blue. This is just like our old purple so far. One big scoop of magenta, baby scoop of white, baby scoop of blue. Scrape your brush off so it's nice and sharp, nice and flat. And then dip the very, very end of your bristles into your black paint to get a tiny, tiny touch of black. So one big scoop of magenta, one baby scoop of white, baby scoop of blue, tiny, tiny touch of black. Scrape off your brush, dip the very end of your bristles into your black paint so you get tiny, it's like a little French manicure. And then stir those colors together. This should be a slightly darker, slightly grayer version of your original lavender color. This is going to be the color that we use for our mountains. We'll be blending some white into it, so we'll be able to lighten it up a little bit. But you want this new color to be slightly darker and slightly grayer than the color you use in your sky. I'm going to add another tiny touch of black to mine, so it's a little bit darker. I'll show you what it looks like. This is what mine looks like right now. It looks a lot like my original lavender, so I'm going to make mine a little bit darker with a little extra black. If your color just turns gray, that means you'll need to add more of your colors. So more blue or more magenta will make it more colorful, less gray. More white will make this color lighter and paler. More magenta, of course, is going to make it pinker. More blue will make it bluer. And more black makes it darker and grayer. So that mixture, one more time. One big scoop of magenta, baby scoop each of white and blue, and then a tiny touch of black. That's how we got this color. Adjust it however you want. You want it to be a similar purple, but a little bit darker and a little bit grayer than that first lavender color. I'll show you what mine looks like as soon as I got it all mixed up. I can pretty good about it here. Here is what my color looks like now. Add a little bit more black into it, tiny touch more magenta, so it's a little pinker. I'm feeling good about this color. Once you are also feeling good about this color, scrape your brush off on the edge of your plate, rescue your hard work, rescue as much of this color as you can, and then clean and dry your purple brush. We'll switch over to our green brush to draw our mountain tops. Remember, this is not a test, so make sure you guys can match my color. What's important is do you like it? Because we're going to paint our mountains with it. And the thing that's actually important about this color is that it is not exactly the same as your previous purple color. So if it looks just like your old purple, you want to change it a little bit so they don't look exactly the same. But it's not important that it looks just like mine. These colors where we have to mix four together, mixing four different paint colors together, they're the most complex. That's as complex as our color mixing gets. It's harder to mix more paint colors together because there are so many different variables and ways you can change the color. So you want to make sure you like it. And if you don't like your color, then you can adjust it. You want to make sure it's a little bit darker, a little bit brighter than your original lavender. That way it looks different when you go to paint it on your sky. You don't want it to look just like the sky color. You want it to be just a little bit darker, a little bit brighter. The most important thing about colors. Once you've got your color mixed up, feeling good about it, like I said, clean and dry out purple brush. Make sure he's nice and clean, nice and dry. Then you can set him aside and grab your green brush. We are going to paint in our mountain tops. We're going to paint in our mountain tops here. I am going to draw the lines for all three of my mountain ranges and then fill it in one at a time, just like there are cards on the page. I want to start with my biggest, I guess not my biggest mountain. I can start with the biggest one, that'll be fine. I'm going to start with my biggest mountain. It's the middle one in this range. It's going to go from one corner of my sky to the other corner of my sky. Using my green brush to draw these lines, and that new gray purple color. Your mountains don't have to look just like mine. You can put them in different places. Maybe you want it to look like an island. Maybe on my paint it's going to look like a river through mountains. But maybe this is the ocean and you're going to paint islands instead. Maybe you're going to have very gentle, curvy, soft hills instead of big, pointy mountains like mine. Feel free. You've got your whole sky painted, so you can show off any of that sky, or you can cover up places you don't like with these mountains. It's up to you. I'm going to match the mountains that are in the painting up here on the wall. So I'm going to start up in the top left corner, about an inch down from the very top of my canvas. And I'm going to end down on my horizon line, probably about a half an inch in from the very right side. I am going to hold my gray brush like a pencil all the way out here on the metal part. That'll help me keep control of my lines. My painting is dry, so I can rest my hand on my canvas while I'm drawing these lines. I'm going to bring my mountain range down towards the horizon. It's going to get gentler and flatter towards the right side. Got a little baby hill down here at the very end. If you have more points, more sharp edges, more cliffs in your mountain, that means it's a younger mountain. It's got more sharp rocks and sharp edges. If you have curvier, smoother shapes, that means your mountain is older. It's had more time to get hit by rain and wind. It's going to be smoother and softer. Maybe your mountain, instead of having this sharp edge, maybe your mountains are going to have like fluffy edges because it's got trees all the way across it. Maybe you are painting sand dunes instead of mountains, and it's all very curvy and smoothie. You can mix it up. You can change your shapes. You can adjust the edges of your mountain. I am going to make my mountains in my painting. They're going to be young mountains. So I'm going to have more texture, some more sharp edges. These are rocky cliffs. It would be good for like rock climbing, but not great for hiking. You'd probably be pretty sad if you were trying to hike that mountain. Once you have got your first biggest mountain drawn in like this, mine's looking like that. I'm going to draw my second mountain. This is going to be the mountain that's closest to us. It's a little bit shorter. It's starting to get a little more gentle. Maybe this one is a softer hill. Maybe we've got some trees on this one. It's this little one in front, so it's going to be in the bottom left section of my sky. It's about halfway between the top of my tallest mountain and my water here, about halfway between. It's going to be slightly gentler. I'm going to have smoother edges. This one's maybe made of dirt and grass instead of rock, just like the far away. It's a little closer, a little curvier. So I got my first biggest mountain painted. I got my second, a little bit gentler, softer looking hill. And then last, I'm going to paint that far away, real pointy looking mountain. It's going to live in the pink section of my sky. That's about how tall, about how big it's going to be. I'm going to start it almost towards the bottom of my first biggest mountain. It's going to start here, and it's going to end probably about the middle of the pink section over on the right side of my painting. I'm just going to play connect the dots with these two little marks to draw my last farthest away mountain. It's going to have a little valley in a second here. So something like this is what we're going to go for. I'm going to take a second to go over a few of my edges, touch up a couple places. When you are finished with your mountain ranges here, we can clean and dry off our green brush. I want to switch back over to my purple brush to fill my mountains in, so I'm going to clean off my green brush while I'm finished with my drawing. I've got that green brush nice and clean and dry. I'm going to set him aside for a minute to switch back over to my purple brush. Here's what my mountain tops look like. I'm going to grab my purple brush and I want to start by filling in the smallest, farthest away mountain with my purple, that gray purple color that we just drew our mountain tops with. I'm going to use my purple paintbrush, the darker of these two purple colors, and I'm going to fill in this mountain. I want to use my purple brush for this step because I'm a big bold painter. It's my favorite show. I'm using big bold brushes like this. If you want a little bit more control over your paint and where it's going, it's kind of a small shape. If you want to use a smaller brush, feel free. The orange brush or the green brush will work to fill these little mountain shapes in. They'll just take longer. Since it's a smaller brush, it's going to take longer to fill stuff in. Fill your mountain in all the way to your water. If there's any part of this mountain that touches the water, you want to fill it all the way in. Also, wrap your color around the side where it touches. And then using this same paintbrush, while this brush is still dirty, and while this purple color is still wet, I'm going to get a little touch of white paint. A little bit of paint is going to go a long way. So I'm going to get a tiny touch of white on this same brush, and I want to blend some white into the bottom of this mountain. It's okay to overlap the lines you drew for your biggest mountain, because we're going to fill in next. So you can always overlap a little bit to redraw if you need to. I'm going to blend in some white. I'm going to blend some white into the bottom of this smallest mountain. So fill it all in with your dark purple first, then using that same brush, a tiny touch of white, and blend some white into the bottom half of that smallest mountain. So it's kind of misty and foggy and far away. Once you're finished with that, go ahead and clean off your brush again, and we'll move to our next mountain. Starting with white, my purple brush is clean and dry. Starting with just white paint, I'm going to fill in this biggest mountain. Next one, working forward, I'm going to fill in this biggest mountain with just white. Yep, just white. White paint, purple brush. I'm going to fill in the whole biggest mountain with just white. And then while my brush is still dirty, and while this white paint is still wet, I'm going to add a little bit of my dark purple color. I want to blend some of that dark purple into the top section of this mountain. So it's just like our first mountain, that farthest away one, only reverse. So we're starting with white and then blending purple into the top. I'm going to do my third mountain, that closest hill. I'm going to do this the same way I did my first hill. So I'm going to start by filling it all in with my gray, my purpley gray color, and then blend some white into it. That's it for that third hill. Same instructions as the first hill. Start by filling it in with your gray purple, then blend some white right into that gray purple while it's still wet. I cleaned and dried my brush between mountains so I can start fresh. That's it. That's all I'm going to do for that third mountain. So as soon as your second mountain is done, you can feel about it, clean and dry your purple brush and move into the third one. Instructions for your third mountain, same as the instructions for the first mountain. So start by filling it with the purple, blend some white in on top of it. Then you can clean and dry your brush again. It'll be just about time to start on our grassy hills down at the bottom. But before we move on from our big hills, our big mountains and the purple mountains, double check your edges and make sure you're wrapping all your colors around still. I want to start with one big scoop of that honey mustard gold, that sort of golden yellow. One big scoop of that golden yellow. Then I'm going to scrape my brush off so it's nice and sharp, nice and flat. Dip the very end of my bristles into my white. It's going to be a tiny little touch of white paint. One big scoop of yellow, tiny little touch of white. It's like a little French manicure. Scrape off my brush again, and dip the end of my bristles into my black, and get a tiny touch of black as well. So that's one big scoop of honey mustard gold. Tiny touch of white, tiny touch of black. Stir that all together. We should have a nice sandy brown color. I'm probably going to add just a smidge more black to mine, but I want to show you what it looks like first. I'm getting close. It's looking like sandy brown, but I want mine to be a little bit darker. There's what mine looks like. More black will make your color darker and grayer. More white will make it lighter and paler. And more gold will make it brighter and more colorful. I'm going to add just another tiny little touch of black to mine so it's a little bit darker, a little bit grayer. Once you have your sandy brown color mixed up, you feel good about it. You know the drill. Scrape off your brush, rescue all of this paint, and then clean your purple brush off. We're going to draw these riverbanks, these little islands, whatever they happen to be in your painting. We're going to draw them with our green brush, just like we did our mountains. So our colors one more time. There's what mine looks like. I added a little more black to it. One big scoop of golden yellow, tiny touch of white, tiny touch of black. Scrape your brush off on the edge of your plate, rescue your hard work, and then clean this purple brush. We'll switch to our green brush to draw our riverbanks. While we are getting our brushes clean here, our lovely artist assistant Sasha is going to come around. I have a little more black and white. Our lovely artist assistant Sasha is going to come around with the store iPad to take some pictures of you while you're working. These pictures are for you to post on Facebook. They always get uploaded in an album together online. So then you can see your pictures, download them if you want them. But that means your face is going to end up on social media, and you know, maybe you're not supposed to be here today. Whatever reason. Maybe you skip work, come pay with me. I would have to skip work to come pay with me. I understand it is a Tuesday night. Maybe you just don't want to know you're out here your face to be seen at Lee's Paint Bar. Just be like, hey, Sasha, no paparazzi. She'll walk right on by. But if you're cool with me just having your picture, your face being online, she wants to get some photos. Pose with your paintings, pose with your artist friends, pose with your drinks, whichever part's your favorite. She'll get some snapshots. She can take pictures on your work wall. I am going to switch over my green brush. I talked through cleaning my purple brush. So purple brush is clean and dry. I've got my sandy brown ready to go. Switch it over to my green brush. Just like when we painted our mountains off in the distance, I'm going to draw the tops of my hills, my riverbanks, my islands, whatever these are in your painting. I'm going to draw the tops in with my green brush, and then we'll switch brushes to fill them in. I am going to start with this first mountain in the corner, this little hill bottom left corner. It's going to start about an inch or two down from the horizon line in the corner of my painting. It starts about here, and it's going to end 2 or 3 inches in from the right side down here on the bottom. I'm going to make a couple little marks so I can connect dots here. Curvy down to the top. It's going to come down towards the bottom. It's got a little gentle curve in the end, right like that. There's my first sandy brown hilltop. The next hilltop is going to be the second biggest one, the one closest up to the horizon over on the left side. So there's my first little hill, the island and the riverbank. You get to decide what this is a picture of. My second hilltop is going to start above the horizon. So it's going to be probably about an inch or so above my horizon, overlapping this first mountain. This one's real curvy, real long. It's going to come all the way past the middle of my painting, down into my water, out to a little point. And then I'm going to draw a straight line that connects the point, the end of this mountain, all the way back to the left side. So my first curvy top, or the curvy top of the second hill, I should say. First, that curvy top of that second hill ends in my water, past the center of my canvas, and then draw a straight line all the way back from the point of that mountain, back to touch the left side. Maybe it's going to hit that hill, or maybe it goes all the way to the edge of the painting. That's like the hill on the top, and then the place where the riverbank meets the river, where the water comes right up to meet the ground. Hold that brush like a pencil. That'll help you keep control of where it's going. All the way down there on the metal part. You can rest your hand on your painting, remember, because that water is dry now. You don't have to stress about not touching it. There's our first two hills. My last little riverbank hill is a tiny little island over on the right side. It lives between these two hills. I'm going to start with my curvy top, my curvy hilltop. Comes to a point, and then a straight line back to the right side of the canvas. It's just a little hill over on this side, over here. Once you have your three little hills, your three little islands, three riverbanks, whatever they are in your painting, go ahead and clean off this green brush. We'll switch over to our purple brush again to fill these in, just like we did our mountains in the background. Don't want it to be a solid brown color. We want it to be streaky, just like all of our hills and mountains. So a little bit of white into the bottom, but just a tiny amount. That way it looks, so this one looks darker than this one. I am going to use my green brush to paint my path. This little path right here. In order to get that color, I'm going to add a little bit of white into that sandy brown color that I made. Just a little bit of white into my sandy brown, so I have a light sandy brown. Just a tiny touch of white using my green brush, tiny touch of white, mix it into some of my sandy brown, and I'm going to draw a curvy rectangle shape right down here on my closest hill. It's a little curvy rectangle. So it looks like a path, maybe it's like a boat launch or something, a little trail. Great, let's talk grass first. Grass is real quick and easy. If you want to practice any of these shapes like grass and trees before you paint them on your real painting, you can use the back of the circle plate. The backs of these circle plates make a real good practice surface if you want to practice drawing before you actually draw on your real painting. I'm going to show you grass first because it's real quick and easy. On the top of both of my green hills, so the grass and the trees just lit in the green sections. There's not going to be any on mine over on the right side. You can put these wherever you want, of course. But all along these green sections of both of my hills, I'm going to grow grass. Grass is real easy. I'm going to draw it with my green brush because that's my favorite brush. You can use your yellow brush also if you like. The grass and trees are getting a little small, so I understand if you want to use a small brush. But start with the end of your bristles touching the place you want the grass to grow from. So I'm going to start at the top of my hill, right in the green section. Then you just real gently flick the bristles of your brush up and towards the sky, out and away from your green hill, up towards the sky, to do this sort of spiky, feathery grass texture. I'm using just black paint for this and for my trees. I'm going to go all along the green tops of my hills. My grass is going to look unmowed. It's going to look very unkempt, wild growth hill, wild growth grass. These fields have not intended ever work for a very long time.
What color?
Black.
Oh, black.
Just black paint for all my grass and all my trees. all the rest of this is black. Great brush, black paint. Start with the end of your bristles touching your hilltop and then flick your brush out and away. And then, like I was saying, this is going to be very wild growth grass, so I'm going to make it all different sizes. It's going to be some of it leaning over, some of it straight up and down. I've got some little tiny blades of grass, some bigger, thicker. That way it looks like a whole forest, a field that's never been mowed. If you make your grass all the same size, all the way across, like it's very even looking, it's just going to look like someone's been out there cutting the grass. Maybe this is a park, or maybe it's your backyard or something. This is a tended lawn, then you want all your grass to be the same way. If you want it to look like wild growth grass, like a field one's been in before, that's how I want mine to look. Then do some very tall grass, some very short grass. Maybe you've got some empty bare spots, some sparse areas. Lots of variety is going to help it look more and more natural. I'm going to go ahead and grow grass all the way across the top of both green hills. And then I will show you how to do trees, and we'll have our pine trees next. So you can show There got my grass nuts. Look at fuzzy all across both of those hills. Now I, of course, would never eavesdrop up here on stage, but I used to say I was scared. Don't be scared of your grass, don't be scared of your trees. You're in charge of your painting, you're in charge of your paint where it goes, you're in full control. And the secret, the trick to making happy little trees, like I'm not lost, make happy little trees, is being happy while you're painting them. If you're stressed out while you're painting a tree, that is going to be a stressed out little tree, not a happy little tree. So take a smile when you have to, tell a joke to your painting, and it'll be happier, your trees will be happier. It's just like, I don't know, any of you have worked in customer service, you've heard this before, when you're talking on the phone, you should smile, even if you're not feeling happy, because if you're a smile, you're over the phone. It's true for your painting too. If you fake a smile, your brain will get that hit of endorphins, and your trees will come out happier. So don't be stressed. That's the most important part. How about painting a happy little tree? Happy little tree. And speaking of happy little trees, I'm going to show you how to paint a couple. This is a very Bob Rossi sort of method. He uses fan brushes when he paints his trees. We're going to use our orange brush to paint our pine trees. Orange brush to paint our pine trees. If you want more control over your trees, you can use a smaller brush like green or yellow. I'm going to use my orange brush. It's my favorite brush to paint a pine tree. Start with a straight up and down line for the trunk of your tree. Straight up and down, so I'm holding my orange brush the skinny direction, up and down. That is your tree trunk, and now I'm going to hide that tree trunk behind some branches. I'm going to turn my orange brush the skinny direction side to side, and instead of brushing with my paintbrush, I'm going to tap with the end of the bristle, so I'm going to use my orange brush like a stamp, and just poke my painting to add the tree branches. We want our branches to be smaller and skinnier up at the top of the tree, and then as we get closer and closer to the ground, you want them to be a little bigger, they want to come farther away from the tree trunk, so that it looks like that classic sort of Christmas tree shape, like an upside down ice cream cone. It's sort of like a triangle. I want to hide all of my tree trunks, so I'm going to bring my branches all the way down to the ground. If you have a visible tree trunk down at the bottom like this, that means someone has come along and cut the branches off of your tree. Maybe you did it on purpose so you can walk underneath it. Maybe this is the part where you're garden, and you want to have a picnic underneath the tree. You're going to want to cut the branches off the bottom so you can sit up there. I want these trees to look just as unkempt as the grass. No one's trimmed the grass, no one's trimmed the trees, so I'm going to bring my branches all the way down to the ground. Cover up my tree trunk entirely. That is how you paint a pine tree. You can do this with your yellow or green brush also if you want a little bit more control over where they go. Your purple brush will make bigger, curvier, fluffier pine trees. Up to you. I'm going to grow one real big pine tree on my closest riverbank. I'm going to have one pine tree over here, touches the hill in the corner. That's my biggest pine tree. Then my smallest pine tree is going to live out on the end of this far away riverbank. He's going to be maybe an inch tall. Maybe an inch tall. I'm going to have one great tree on my first closest riverbank, and then I'll have, this is like a little cluster. There's maybe 6 trees in this little bunch. There's 2 right here. Grow as many or as few trees as you want. This is your forest. You plant these trees yourself. I'd recommend you do 1 tree at a time. That way you can decide when you can have enough. You're going to maybe paint 1 pine tree and go, you know what? 1 pine tree is plenty. Or maybe you're going to have 6 pine trees and say, wow, I love painting pine trees. I have a bunch of hidden talent today. I'm going to cover my entire painting with trees. Feel free. I'm going to match the shades and placements along the wall, but this is your forest. Throw it wherever you want. Here are my trees. I've got all of my pine forest planted. That is my last instruction. But before I tell you how to finish your painting, before I tell you how to finish your painting, I have a question. It's the most important question I've asked all day long. I want to know if we are celebrating any birthdays. Yes? Just one? What's your name?
Stephanie.
Stephanie. Happy birthday, Stephanie. Thanks for inviting all of us to your birthday party. It's like a reverse surprise party. I didn't know I was going to birthday party, but now I do. Happy birthday. I think we need to sing happy birthday to Stephanie, you guys. I'm going to leave my microphone on, so I'm going to do super loud. I hope that you'll sing with me, so I don't have to listen to myself sing. But I'll do it just for you, Stephanie. But you guys will sing. On the count of 3, let's sing happy birthday to Stephanie. 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Stephanie. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Thanks for coming out to celebrate with us. Also, congratulations on making your own son again. It's been a challenge these past couple of years. You did it. I'm proud of you. And I'm not just trying to embarrass you either. I have a gift for you. You can come up to the stage, pick out a painting from the celebration box, and say, well, that's your birthday gift from you. Happy birthday. Now everybody else is like, actually, it is my birthday. Anybody maybe have an anniversary or some other kind of celebration? I don't have a song. Maybe. Yes? Maybe. You got married? Yeah. Congratulations, you guys. It does count. When? How long was it there? Like 2 weeks. 2 days? Oh my gosh, congratulations. I don't have a song to sing for congratulations. If you also like to pick out painting from the celebration box, feel free. Feel free. And that's what I've got for you up here on stage. I'm out of instructions. I don't have anything left to teach you, but I do have one last final step, one last requirement for you to paint in your painting. It's something I'm not going to paint in mine. It's unique to you. Every artist has one. It goes in everything paid. It's your signature. You've got to sign your painting. It's not really a truly finished masterpiece until it's signed. Traditionally, paintings are signed down in the bottom right corner, but you don't have to be traditional. You can put your name anywhere you want. You can even hide it around the back and the side of your canvas if you don't want all the front of your painting. Feel free. Full names, initials, you go by a symbol like Prince, slap that in there somewhere. Big red letters all the way across the sky. You can really feel it. But it's got to be signed. After your signature is in your painting, the only thing left to do will be to sell it at auction for $150 million. But you gotta have time. That's what people pay big bucks for. Let's see. When you're done, your painting is signed, nothing left to do. Of course, let me or Sasha know if you want any help finishing anything or adding anything to your painting. Maybe you need some birds or a little mountain climbers, Loch Ness Monster, Bigfoot stomping through your trees. Let us know. We can give you a hand. But once you're done, it'll be time for the best part about painting in our art studio. That is that we will clean it for you. You don't have to worry about anything. All we want you to do, when you're finished with your paint, stack up your paint blades for us. And when you're finished with your brushes, drop your paintbrushes into your water can. That's all you have to do. We will take care of everything else. If you open a tab up at the bar, make sure you head up to the bar and get your tab closed out before you leave today. It's not a good way to finish your Tuesday night by leaving your credit card here. So make sure you head up and see Sasha or Kristen up there at the bar and check it out. If you got paint on your clothes, we've got spot remover and a little bottle above the sink in the corner. It's a little yellow bottle with a blue lid. You can use that to help get paint out of your clothes if you've got some on. If you have a really awesome time with me and Sasha today, if you want to show us some love, we both have our Instagrams on our name signs here. Likes and follows, of course, will help us boost the algorithm. We also both have Cash App and Venmo if you want to buy one of those cup of coffees to show your love and support for our caffeine addiction, as well as our work. Tonight with Derek, if he made some food for you, you want to leave a tip for your chef, we've got his information also. If cups of coffee aren't your love language, maybe you don't have an Instagram, but you do want to support what we do at Muse. In a couple days, you're going to get an email after feedback and survey attached. Filling out that survey helps as well, especially if you name drop us in your comments. My name is Michael, and I was your lead artist today. Our artist assistant was Sasha. Let's give Sasha a round of applause for all her help. And then give yourselves a round of applause for making it through, because this is it. Now, I know that if you're not clapping, it means you're still working, and that's okay. I will clap for you. I'm here you think to do, and I'm proud of you for coming out and doing it. And you've got some cool art to take a look at too. But that's it. That's all I got. I'm going to come down off the stage now, take off my microphone. I'll help you finish your paintings if you need some help. Let me know if you'd like a picture up here at the stage with your finished art, and I'll be happy to give you a hand with that as well. Otherwise, I hope you have some time. I hope you have an awesome night, and I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much.